latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back, guys. Greg Westlake is a 5-time Paralympian representing Canada at the Paralympics time and time again. He's also the host of Level Playing Field right here on AMI TV, now in its 4th season. The show showcases so much about sports and disability. Greg, welcome to Access Tech Live.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Thrilled to be here.
Let me start off by asking you, Greg, what drives someone like you when you're hosting a show like Level Playing Field?
What drives me is the storytelling. For me, I was born with a congenital defect, so I've had a disability my whole life. And when I got involved in parasport and started meeting other athletes and organizations, I just realized what a special group of people it was that live in this kind of Paralympic community. And I'm sitting in a change room with cancer survivors, and I'm sitting in a change room with, soldiers who've served our country in battle. And you just realize that this isn't like a sad group of people that have disabilities. This is an inspiring, amazing group of people that you can learn so much from. And so for me, being able to tell their stories and some of these incredible athletes and people who maybe don't love to be as outgoing as myself, I get them on camera. We have some interviews. We film them for a day. And just telling the stories that have made such a profound impact in my life is kind of what drives me on a daily basis.
Greg, we're talking about prosthetics today. This is something that you're extremely familiar with, and I love watching Level Playing Field because the stories you tell from week to week are absolutely not only heartwarming, but they're just incredible, positive stories that I love watching. And when it comes to the prosthetic side of things, I've got to ask you, we like to ask the questions here that people may be a bit embarrassed to ask, but just out of curiosity, is there a difference between the prosthetics you use day to day versus what people use in sports?
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? It's such a great question. And I don't think it's an offside question at all. And yeah, for me, there's a tremendous difference. If you watch like track and field and you see the runners, everybody loves talking about the blades. And they do help. And they do help you run faster. But you're never going to see an amputee just walking around in your day-to-day life doing his grocery shopping in blades because it's uncomfortable. And it would just be ridiculous. And so I wear completely different legs on a day-to-day basis. And one of my favorite prosthetists, and prosthetists are the people who make your artificial limbs for you. But one of my favorite analogies that he told me was kind of there's different legs that we can do up for you. There's like the Ferrari, the race car, or there's the Cadillac, sit back and be comfortable. And then you got swimming legs and all these things. And so ultimately it's, when you're going for a walk with your dog and your new baby on a weekend, do you want to be in the Cadillac or do you want to be in the Ferrari? And you probably want to be in the Cadillac. You want to be comfortable. You want to be able to, go do some trails, be out with your family for the day. So you wear a comfortable set of legs. Now, if I'm going to the gym and I need to show that I got some speed, now maybe I wear blades. Maybe I put something else on. But no, it's no different than shoes. It's no different than cars. It's kind of what is your goal for the day? And let's get you set up for success.
I want to ask you a little bit about computerized prosthetics, because this is something we're starting to hear a little bit more about, something I wasn't as aware of as I would like to be, and maybe you can tell us a bit more about it. In sports, it does make sense, I guess, for these kind of prosthetics to be used, but what would that impact on you? How would that impact on you day to day? Do you use them?
Well, it's again, another great question. For me, I don't, because I have all of my I'll say joints, like major joints, elbows and knees. And where the computerized chips are really helping amputees are for the people that are missing an elbow. So it's an arm amputee that's above the elbow, or it's a leg amputee that's above the knee. That's where these chips are making a huge difference because, we did a feature on Autobach, and I'm sure you're going to talk to Autobach, and so I don't want to step on their toes, but what they can do with these chips now is it basically replaces your knee. And so, yeah, you're wearing an artificial leg, but where the money and the tech is in that chip that's replacing your knee that can simulate kicking out the lower portion of your leg so that you don't fall over when you're walking on a downhill, an uphill, a side hill. As we all know, once we leave our house, the world isn't safeguarded for people with disabilities. You know, you got to adapt to the terrain. You have to adapt to the outside world. Not everything's done for you. And so that's where these chips are just absolutely massive, is I'm around a lot of other amputees, and it's the people that are missing major, you know, knees and elbows. That is just where it's incredible. And where it makes a difference in your life, to be honest with you, is just comfort day to day. And so for me, growing up as a kid, I had a whole different system that I used to use. And the big thing, it was me against me. I'd play hockey all day. I'd work out. I'd be active at recess. I'd come home, my legs would be so sore. Like I would just be in so much pain. So it was like one day of fun meant 2 days of me not being able to have some fun as a kid. Now the legs are so good and the systems are so different that now I can be so active and I can wake up and do it again the next day. And then I can wake up and do it again the third day. So what's nice about the tech now is, for me, as a guy in my late 30s now, it's all about comfort. It's all about being able to go out with my kid, my dog, my wife, and I can do that and not miss days to, you know, I'll call it a quote unquote sick day. I don't have to take a sick day anymore because my legs are in too much pain. And that's all because of the technological advancements that have been made on prosthetics.
Greg, you talked about the environment and the world out there not being safeguarded for obviously people who are you know, walking around with prosthetics. Do you think technology has improved the safety and the performance, especially when it comes to athletes? I think in sport, you know, that's a major concern. It's not only about you know, actually performing the act, but it's about doing it safely and making sure that you're not hurting yourself even more.
100%. And I think away from the field of play, away from sport, 100% way safer. So much work. And again, when we were with Autobach, I witnessed it firsthand, but they had the computer, you know, the chip processors on the computer, and they had the amputee going up and down stairs and ramps and all these different terrains, and what the knee could do was just incredible. And so for day to day, like that is just making such a profound difference in people's lives. Now, when it comes to the actual field of play, that's where it gets a little bit different, because like a lot of things in life, when you give something, you take something away. And so for technology, you know, for me, I play a full contact sport for para ice hockey. Well, the faster we go, the harder the collisions are. And so as we make things faster, better, you know, picture a downhill skier. Okay, we're going to make this apparatus for you on an artificial leg that now you can go down the hill 80 kilometers faster. Well, now that collision, when you do fall, is going to be a lot tougher as well. Yeah. So on one hand, I think we're really helping the sport performance, but to say that it's safer, you know, I would say the collisions are more intense. I would say that some of that, you know, you open yourself up to some catastrophic collisions. So it's a hard one to say, but that's also, isn't that what sports is about? And people with disabilities are no different. We want to push our bodies. We want to push our boundaries. We want to set world records. We want to go down the hill the fastest, reach the finish line first, score the most goals. That's no different. That is just high performance sport to a T. And if you love high performance the way that I love high performance, you'll take any edge you can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, on Tuesday's episode of Level Playing Field, you'll be talking about a Canadian prosthetics company, Autobach. We'll be talking to Jennifer, of course, from Autobach today here on Access Tech Live. But what has your experience been with them? I know you've mentioned them already, but tell us a bit more about that.
Well, my first experience with Autobach, and I don't know if the general public would know this, but when you go to the Paralympics, they have a shop set up in the village during the Paralympics, and it's just a free clinic for anybody who wants to go in and take advantage of it. So we talk about day-to-day life. I got to tell you guys, I feel so lucky every day that I wake up that I'm in Canada and that I have access to these incredible doctors and incredible technology for my legs. But for a lot of countries, they don't get that access. And so my first experience with Autobach was just watching them help people from countries that maybe don't have the same access that I have access. And they help all these people over the Paralympics, and they just walk in and they'll give them a new wheelchair, a new piece for their leg, whatever it takes. So that's my first interaction with them. So it's all good vibes on my end. And then when we were there for the show for Level Playing Field, they were so good to us. They opened up their doors. They just let us fully in. We saw a lot of behind the scenes stuff about, you know, how they test their processors and how they test kind of the fake knees and the elbows and all that stuff, so that when they send a client out the door, they're not worried about that client's safety. And we just saw all the tests they do, and even just the care they put in to make sure that everything looks so real. Because that's the thing that we also don't talk about a lot nowadays, is I remember when I was a kid, I was walking on the beach one time, and a lady came up to my mom and she said, "How come your son's wearing cowboy boots on the beach?" My mom says, "He's not wearing cowboy boots. He has 2 artificial legs." But at that time, that was like the closest skin color they could get to my skin color. So there just always looked to be something off. And so I think that's another thing I appreciate about Autobach. I'll let them talk about their technology and all the great things they do. But even just from the pure aesthetics part, the fact that they can make limbs now that are so, past the eye test, where kids now don't have to walk down the beach and have people stop them and ask them what they're wearing or why they're wearing cowboy boots. I think that's a pretty cool thing, because especially at a young age, or a new amputee, when you've just been in an accident or just been through something, you want to fit in. You want to feel like your life hasn't been completely turned upside down. And so the work that they do from the technological standpoint, from the aesthetic standpoint, I'm just a big fan, and I'm very appreciative that there's companies like that out there.
Greg, after 4 seasons of Level Playing Field, you're introducing us to so many really cool athletes out there. What are you learning? Are you learning stuff every episode that you do? And what can the audience expect when they tune in next week? Because next week you'll be talking about Autobach.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, what you realize is, high performance sport is just one little microcosm of the show. Like, I don't even consider it a sports show at this point. And that's one thing that's changed after now doing it 4 seasons. I almost just view it as like a human element piece. Sport has just become a driver for a lot of people on our show, that they use it as a pathway to pull themselves out of a tough time. They use it as a pathway to do good charity work. They use it as a pathway to become a high performance athlete. And so for me, it's now just sharing these stories. And so for this upcoming week, Autobach, that's a rare one where we actually get to feature a company. We don't do that a ton. We usually do people. And so now after 4 seasons, it's just, for me, it's a human element show. It's a human piece. It's about the human spirit and what people can overcome. And for me, what am I learning now? I think it's still that. It's just meeting new people. Just this last week, we had a man named Jake Peacock on the show. And he's not interested in parasport. He just wants to be the best Muay Thai fighter he can be. And we went to his gym, and he's missing an arm kind of right at the elbow on one side. But you would not want to get into a fight with this man. And what you learn is just, there's a lot of people who have that we don't care attitude. And I wish I had that more in my life. And this guy just says, I'm going to fight able-bodied people. I'm going to fight in their league, and I'm going to win. And he is.
Well, Greg, you
and he's
learned
doing
so
an
much.
incredible job.
Yeah, no, you definitely, obviously, you learn a lot, and I find I learn a lot just watching the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this week. Level Playing Field, of course, airs Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, and that Autobach episode is coming up just next week, and you can catch it on AMI TV or, of course, on AMI Plus on your own schedule. When we come back here on Access Tech Live, we're going to introduce you to Autobach and then bring on our next guests. We'll be right back.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back.